You sat down on the floor to scratch a friend's dog behind the ears. An easy minute, nothing planned. Before you'd finished the first stroke, your own dog crossed the room and pushed its body into the small gap between your hand and the other dog. No barking, no teeth. Just a shoulder, wedged exactly where the attention was going. Most people read this one of two ways. Either the dog wants the ear scratch for itself, or it's being possessive, guarding you like a toy it won't share. Both sound right. Neither is quite what the research keeps finding. And here's the part that complicates it. The thing your dog is reacting to isn't really the other dog at all. For about a decade now, behavior labs have been pulling this exact moment apart. And the answer that keeps surfacing is stranger than plain possessiveness. It also isn't the petty, grudge-holding thing people picture when they say a dog is jealous. It's older than that and more specific. Once you see what actually sets it off, the dog shoving into that gap stops looking jealous of the other dog and starts looking like it's protecting something else. Start with the study that opened the whole question. In 2014, Christine Harris and Caroline Prouvost at UC San Diego took a test originally built for human babies, the kind used to measure how a 6-month-old reacts when its mother fusses over another infant, and ran a version of it on 36 dogs, in the dogs' own homes. The owners were told to ignore their dog and give warm attention to one of three things: a stuffed dog that barked and whined and wagged its tail, a plastic jack-o'-lantern pail, and a pop-up book they read aloud. The dogs barely noticed the book. They mostly ignored the pail, but when the owner cooed over the stuffed dog, things shifted fast. The dogs pushed at the owner. They shoved between the owner and the toy, and a few of them snapped at it. Here's the detail that tells you they bought the illusion completely. Most of the dogs, around 8 and 10, circled around and sniffed the fake dog's rear end, the way a dog investigates another one it takes for real. That's the reframe, sitting right there. The dogs weren't set off by a new object in the room. The pail was new too, and it got almost nothing out of them. What flipped them was watching their person aim affection at something they read as a social rival. Harris and Prouvost reached for a careful description. Not the brooding, complicated jealousy of adult humans, but an older, simpler version, the kind that seems built to do a single job: keep a bond from quietly closing over without them inside it. So the dog in your gap isn't begging for the ear scratch. It's stepping into a relationship it doesn't want forming without it. There's a second thing underneath this, and it makes even less sense at first because it turns up even when the dog can't see what you're doing. We'll get to that. For now, next time your dog wedges in like that, watch where it actually aims. Not at the other dog, at the space between you. Let it settle there, and don't make a thing of it. Here's the second thing, the one that makes the whole picture tilt. A dog doesn't even have to watch it happen to react to it. In 2021, Amalia Bastos and her team at the University of Auckland set out to test that, and they ran it cleanly. 18 dogs sat with their owner while the owner gave attention to one of two things placed nearby: a realistic fake dog or a fleece-covered cylinder. Just a soft tube of fabric. Then a barrier slid into place. The dog could no longer see what its owner was doing on the other side. And still, when the owner appeared to be petting the fake dog behind that barrier, the dogs hauled on their leads, dragging toward a scene they couldn't actually see. With the cylinder, they barely bothered. Three things fell out of this, and together, they draw a sharp line. The reaction only showed up when the rival was something the dog read as social. Another dog, not a fabric tube. It tracked the interaction, the petting, rather than the mere fact that a rival was sitting there. And it fired even when the whole thing was hidden from view. That last one is the strange part. The dog was holding a picture in its head, you and the other dog, and reacting to the picture. Bastos was careful about what that does and doesn't prove. Her own line was that it's still too early to say dogs feel jealousy the way we do, only that they clearly respond to the situations that trigger it, even out of sight. That honesty matters more than a tidy headline. Rocky, my dog, did a smaller version of this for years and I never connected it. He'd watch me greet another dog at the park completely relaxed, right up until the moment I actually crouched and put both hands into its fur. The second my hands landed, he'd be there, head shoved up under my arm, splitting us apart. Now the part the title is really about, the part most people get backwards. When people say their dog is jealous, they usually mean the treat, the toy, the spot on the couch. They picture the dog wanting the thing the other dog has. But that's a different machine entirely, and there's research on it. In 2009, Friederike Range and her colleagues ran the now famous paw task. Two dogs, side by side, asked to give a paw. One gets rewarded, the other gets nothing for the same trick. The unrewarded dog quits, refuses to keep playing along. Fair enough, that looks like a sense of fairness. But here's the twist that separates it from jealousy. When a dog was alone and got nothing, it kept giving the paw happily. And it didn't care whether the other dog got a better treat. Sausage versus plain bread made no difference. What stung was getting nothing while a partner got something. That's about resources and effort, a fairness instinct tied to cooperation. It has almost nothing to do with guarding your affection. Most people never split these two apart. They fold the treat stealing and the bond guarding into one word and call it all jealousy. So if you want to know which one you're actually looking at, try this today. Once, warmly fuss over a cushion or your phone in front of your dog. Another time, get down and greet a different dog with the same warmth. Watch which one it walks over to interrupt. The answer tells you what your dog is really tracking. But does any of this show up inside the dog's head? Or are we just reading our own story onto a wagging tail? A brain scanner has actually looked, so they looked inside. In 2018, Peter Cook and Gregory Burns, the team that figured out how to scan fully awake, unrestrained dogs, put 13 of them in an fMRI machine. The dogs lay still and watched their owner hand a piece of hot dog either to a realistic fake dog or drop it into a plain bucket. The researchers were watching one region, the amygdala, a part of the brain that ramps up during high arousal and aggression. When the food went to the fake dog instead of the bucket, the amygdala lit up harder, and the dogs that lit up the most were the ones their owners had already rated as more aggressive on a standard temperament questionnaire. That points at something a lot of people sense but rarely say out loud. There's no single jealous dog. Some are wired to feel the pull of a rival far more sharply than others, and you can see that difference in the brain, not just the behavior. Cook was the first to wave off the easy headline. Amygdala activity tells you the dog is worked up. It doesn't tell you the flavor of worked up. Anger, anxiety, plain frustration all run through that same circuit. So the honest version is this. The brain confirms a real spike of feeling tied to watching you give to a rival, and stops short of stamping a human label on it. The studies keep landing in the same careful place. Something is there, it runs deep. We don't get to name it with certainty, and pretending otherwise would be the easy lie. There's a kinder finding buried in that scan, though, and it's the practical one. The amygdala response faded with repeated exposure. The same trigger, run again and again in a calm setting, pulled less reaction each time. The feeling isn't a fixed trait carved into the dog, it can settle, which is where the misunderstanding finally clears. The thing your dog is guarding was never the treat or the cushion or the other dog's ears. It's the line running between the two of you, and it reacts hardest when that line looks like it's being redrawn without it. That's not pettiness. And it's not a flaw to train out of existence. It's a very old piece of machinery doing exactly the job it was shaped for, keeping a bond intact. Here's the one I actually want to know, because the pattern is never random. In your house, who or what does your dog step in to interrupt? Not the thing it wants, the thing it can't stand watching you give your attention to. Tell me below what the rival was and what you were doing the second your dog moved. That moment usually says more about the bond than anything the dog does when you're alone. For tonight, when your dog shoves between you and something it's decided is competition, you don't have to correct it or feel cornered by it. Let it see the bond is still there. A hand on its side, a second of your attention, and the alarm switches off on its own. Then go back to scratching the other dog if you want to. Yours will be lying against your leg by the time you do, having made its point and satisfied that you heard it.